And welcome to another exciting episode of the Bud Rebel Show. But this is a very unique show because I'm at my old alma mater, Bryant University. 35 years, I know, I look a lot younger. I have two of my friends here, one who graduated the same year as me, and one who graduated earlier. I will not reveal either one until later on. One is a lady named Marissa, and one is Vinny. Thank you for coming to the show. By the way, for those who have not seen our show, the Bud Rebel Show is a very unique podcast. What it does is we bring up exciting ideas that you can't see anywhere else, that will either make you money, lose you money, or make you think. We'll have some, quote, Snapple facts that you don't hear usually. We'll have some heartwarming stories, and we'll end on a note that has you thinking. So let's get started. Since my graduation, 1988, Mr. Vin, what have you been up to?
Well, I've traveled, I've worked abroad, I've worked in Asia, I've worked in Latin America. Now I currently live on the West Coast in Oregon. I've pretty much been in the financial world the whole time, and it's been great. And lucky I get to come back to the East Coast and visit Bryant occasionally.
So you moved from, I guess, Rhode Island. Where were you originally from?
Originally from Connecticut, Eastern Connecticut. And then when I got out of Bryant, I was living in Connecticut for a number of years, and then I moved to Boston, and then New York, and then from New York out to Oregon.
Wow, they really moved you around a lot. And for those that don't know, what's the biggest difference when you move to like Oregon from where the East Coast? What's the biggest difference that you find?
Well, in general, the West Coast tends to be I find it a little bit more work-life balance. Maybe because the weather's nice, so in the wintertime, if it's 5 o'clock, there's stuff to do. Whereas when you're living in New York and it's 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, it's dark and it's cold and it's snowy, so there's not a lot to do. So people out there are really active year-round, so you don't see as many people sticking around after work, and so you get to enjoy yourself after hours.
Right, and are you involved with the wine program also? Yes, the wine.
Well, I started in a wine business when I was working in Asia. I started getting into wine, and I spent some time in Australia. I spent some time in Chile and Argentina, and so I just started getting into wine. Usually on the weekends when I didn't have to work, I needed something else to do other than stay in the hotel room. Right? We all kind of want to venture out, and so I started getting into wine. So I started a wine business in 1996.
Wait, so this is your wine that you're going to be tasting here?
Oh, this is not wine. This is a mixed drink made by our colleague Dieter Kam.
Okay.
Who's he's a mixologist and importer.
Let's stay with the wine for a minute. I'm sorry about that. So all of a sudden you decide you're going to make wine.
Well, I don't make wine. I teach wine. So a lot of people out there, want to get into wine, particularly young people, right? You come out of college, you go to your first corporate dinner,
right.
And you're like, I've only had beer in college, so people don't know a lot about wine. So I teach a lot of wine events to consumers to help them feel a little bit less intimidated by wine.
Oh, so you're like you're like a class of wine.
They actually have wine education courses at a number of universities.
How long, and you teach there?
I teach it on the side. I still have my job in finance during the day, and luckily the wine business is more of an evening thing. I'm not teaching a lot of wine classes during the daytime.
Okay, so if you're like teaching to certain students, let's say a little slower than others, don't catch on, or are they all? You have expert students?
Well, there's some dynamics happening. I think young people in the U.S. and abroad are kind of getting more into mixed drinks and craft beers and those kinds of things. It's very cyclical. So I think the wine industry, at least, wants to get a lot more younger people in. Whereas in the past, a lot of younger people got into wine, but now these other craft drinks and other things are really attracting young people. So the wine industry is trying to get young people back into
drinking the wines, yeah. Right, learn the whole thing. And Marissa, let's hear a little bit about you. You graduated at a different time. I'm not telling you the age, but you also. Tell us about what you do. What do you come out of college?
Well, coming out of college, I started out in public accounting. So I did that for a number of years and then switched career paths to corporate accounting. So instead of public, more internal. And I did that for a number of years. And then I switched to leadership development and running a finance leadership development program for the Hartford. So, and that's where I retired from a couple of years ago, and now I do some career coaching on the side.
Oh, you do career coaching? Okay, yeah. So you're going to help change my career.
If you want to change it, I can help you. I can support you.
All right, very good.
Absolutely. If you need to change.
We'll find out right now whether this podcast is worthy of changing my career. So when you started out as accountant and you've moved into different directions, did you when you decided to change, was it like scary to change positions in this?
It was definitely scary. I remember the first time I thought I really don't like public accounting anymore, and I wanted to do something different. So I spent 2 years waiting for somebody to want to hire me. And I learned that they're not just going to hire you. Like, you have to create a resume, you have to decide what you want to do, you have to take specific steps. And while that's sometimes a little scary, it was actually very empowering to make those types of changes and movements. And so the second time I wanted to change my career, I did it with a lot more confidence in it and surety, and took time off from working to actually think about how I wanted to live my life, what did I want the last, let's say, third of my career to be. And I liked, I assessed things that I was good at doing by getting feedback from others and their input, and it turned into leadership development and coaching others.
Okay, since you're my coach now, I'm going to give you guys some business ideas that came out. As I said before, these can be good, bad. Well, good, they can make you money, lose you money, or make you think. So you guys can take these ideas. One is something, as we get older in life, we may want to not really officially retire, but we also don't want to spend as much time working as much. But some of us, like that business grind, we want to do something. So I thought of making a senior investors group. And what we do is we take the people like you in accounting, maybe someone else in marketing, we come on to get together, and they would present our ideas, sort of like that show. What's the name of that show everyone watches?
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank, yeah, sort of like that, but we'd have a little bit more involvement in it.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think of that idea, especially with Bryant College being a business college? What do you think of that idea?
I bet it's happening out there today somewhere. I mean, that's a simple, I think, way of defining like a venture capital firm.
Yep.
Where people with maybe a lot of money get together and...
Yeah, this is a little bit more simple. It's more like almost like a social, more sociable. You get together, you hang out, you have drinks, talk a little bit. So
recently, I learned of a group that of women in the eastern corner of Connecticut that get together, and they have a pool of funds, and once a quarter they decide what charity they're going to contribute to.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that
the whole idea of pulling resources together and having a
Yes.
social life.
Yes.
Is fun. Okay.
it's a great thing.
So okay, but this is more. This is you don't usually do this on the show, but since you said this is not that original, I'm going to give you another one. Okay, Wikipedia decides of your autobiography and all this stuff. I thought of an idea called Truthpedia, which would allow anybody to write their own bio. Now, people can write what they want about you afterwards, and they can check. Everything's verified, but this way everybody has a little bio in the world, and it's out there as one outlet. Comments?
I mean, I know you're looking at me, but isn't that LinkedIn?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
It is essentially.
Except people can't necessarily comment, although I suppose they could figure out a way to comment on it. But
the difference between the Truthopedia is it's actually the name's big different, but the bigger difference is it gives you a whole history. You're going to tell your life story, where I was born, what I did, how I grew up, every little detail that you have that you want to. You can include everything, but you can put whatever you want as long as you want in your bio, as long as you want it to be. You probably can even put up little videos connected to it. Mm-hmm. And the way that people check if it's true is they can put the information on it as well. So, because Wikipedia sort of selects who's going to be chosen on it, Truthopedia will allow everybody access to it.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Why would somebody want to put out their bio and all of that information about themselves? What's in it for them?
Well, the same reason that somebody makes a YouTube channel. Everybody, I think in a sense that people want to have their story told. Mm. And this way you can tell your story as you see it. You could actually, we probably could have people write it a little bit too. But a lot of people want to have their story told. As you get older in life, your story gets missing, little pieces. That's one of the reasons I have my blog. But I feel there's a lot of people want to have that coming out instead of just having a little piece on it. And that's how Wikipedia got popular. But you can pay to get verified and all the other information. I think it's a way to expand your take on the world, you might say. Mm.
It'd be interesting to know who the judges on the Truthopedia would be, right? Like, let's say I wrote something that I was in a younger, I was Batman,
right?
Or I was, some type of a child actor prodigy. Someone would have to kind of verify that.
Well, they don't have to, but you can have it. Your page could say either verified or not verified. So you can maybe make up your own thing,
Right.
you know? But if it's verified, then someone checks the facts and the dates and stuff
Right.
like that. If you don't want to care about it, you can make yourself Batman if
Right.
you want.
Well, hopefully the people doing the fact checking, you know. But yeah, I can see where that, you know, because in a way, some people do like video bios, or people will do video wills. They might not go all the way back to 6th grade, but they'll certainly express their wishes on a video about how they want their assets to be distributed at death, or how they love their children, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think if you go all the way back to, you know, 1st grade, you know, I guess that could be interesting to certain people.
Right, and it's like it can, you know, like as people's, by their grandparents, or that situation as time goes on, it's nice to have a little...
Like a video diary or something.
It's really, it's that, right, it
Right.
can be in that 2 different formats.
Not to say, to point out another thing that's already out there kind of similar to that is there are books out there for grandparents to tell their story to their grandchildren.
Yeah.
In a book.
In a book.
Oh.
And they ask questions to generate, you know, your memories and your thoughts, and you're able to
like that.
handwrite.
And it recorded. We did that with my mom. She recorded a video book for my son when he was a baby. And so, because we didn't know how long she was going to be around. So she just kind of talked about her and her life. So in case she wasn't there when he grew up, he'd have something.
You know, it's sort of like our reunion right here. You know, it's when you're there, when you're graduating from college, and you're not thinking about, oh, this is going to pass. And then when you're out of the college, and like all the things you might have done and said, and it's all gone. You know, unless you other people, and so it's almost like these things pass. And you just, as you're living the moment, you don't think about it's going to pass.
Right, right.
Which is sort of sad. Do you guys have any interesting Bryant moments that you want to share with us at all?
Well, you know, whenever somebody says, you know, what do you remember most about Bryant, my time at Bryant, besides the people that I met day one that are still my friends today, and I think that's kind of maybe a unique experience for Bryant students, but I can name Colin and Frank and Tony and Oaks and B as some of my best friends today. But one of the things that we went through, those are not my suite mates, those were the guys that I hung out with. But we went through the blizzard of '78, and the school was shut down for a week. And, you know, how did you survive? Well, we moved from 3 meals a day to 2. And
You were on the college, and the blizzard was you
the
there?
blizzard, like, their professors got stuck here, administrators got stuck here.
And when you mean stuck, you mean is how much snow we're talking about here?
I don't know, 6, 8 feet. The
8 feet?
The state of
Wow.
Rhode Island shut down. Like, it didn't know how to handle it.
And you had some food.
They had to fly food into us by the end of the week.
And there was lights and electricity?
We had electricity and heat, and it was in the middle of February of '78. So the fraternities and sororities were pledging, and so they were out there shoveling with the the maintenance people as part of their pledge. And meanwhile, I was not a part of that. So my friends were walking down to Max's package store, which was open, and once a day they would bring a new keg up, and we would drink it at night, and then the next day that dead keg was rolled back down to Max's package store, and we would get a new one.
Wow.
But by the end of the week, we were eating French fries for breakfast. So that was a little
That's interesting. So it went on and so you could
pretty
walk
much like a week.
a week. That was
Pretty
that
much
bad.
before school reopened.
And were you able to call people? Were the phones working then? I mean, I think in those days.
Honestly, I guess so, but I don't know. Like those days, I wasn't attached to my family
Isn't it
and
weird?
parents.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
yeah, I'm alive.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right.
How about you? Do you have any Bryant College moments that stand out?
I didn't have everything as big as that, although we
She's
did have Hurricane Gloria while we were here, and I think that was in 1986, and I left campus, luckily, but I know a lot of people got into they had to shuffle everybody, either into the Conference Center, and then I think eventually they moved them into the gym. But I had some great memories. I had a great internship in Boston, which was with Pitney Bowes outside of Boston 128. So I worked there twice a week in my senior year, Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays and Tuesdays. And then just the interaction, like Melissa was saying, is not only the friends you meet, but the relationships you have with the professors and the staff I remember the first person I ever met from Bryant came to my high school, and we maintained a relationship all the way until he passed away.
Wow.
You know, so I saw him here, and then while I was here, and then afterwards, and other people like Roberta Heisel, who ran the Intercultural Center here. She's now retired. So it's wonderful. I think college really is about not only learning, but learning about relationships, learning how to get along with people,
Sure.
and also it's a test of how to maintain those relationships. Because in a strange sort of way, I heard this in a movie. In college, you know, we think of it as a really long period of time, but the reality is it's 4 years for most people. But the relationship you have with them is far longer than the college years.
Well, the biggest
You
part
know?
of college you talk about is also your networks. You meet people you get
Yeah.
to know and stuff. You know what's interesting? When I went to this college here, I was trying to avoid politics. I was involved in some political stuff and met some bad people, but they had Amy Carter come here, and my political philosophy and Amy Carter's were a little bit different. So I decided to debate her, and the next thing I know, I'm putting together Young Republicans of Bryant University, and the biggest supporter of mine was the biggest liberal teacher of the college. And the only reason he was excited because at least there was some political activism in the college, because the college was like, you know, it was just business. So he's so excited, he supported me, even though he disagreed with the whole philosophy of it. But he brought it, and the funny thing about that debate, I never forgot that, because he got Amy Carter there, and this is a professor, very, very smart, you know, much smarter than me, I would say. But he lost the debate by one way, because what happened is during the debate, he said to me, "That was really stupid." I said to the professor, "Professor, so this is an intellectual debate. Do we need to call each other names?" And he actually apologized during the debate. So
That's
it was,
good.
yeah, it was really fun. Hey, you know what's great about the college too? It was a different experience in my suite, and not that it makes any difference, but it's just it was multicultural. We had people from African American, we had from an Indian American who I'm still friends with, and people from all different cultures in the same suite, and everyone just got along good. It was the first time you lived together with different people.
It's a bit of a test if you think about it. You know, it's the first time, you know, when you're 18, you're living outside of your home.
Yeah.
You're living with people you don't know, and you're living far away from home for many kids. So it's a real test. But I think, you know, Bryant, at least for me, it was that right size school where
Right.
you didn't feel like a number, but you also weren't around the corner from your house, so you'd have to run home. You really had to kind of be independent, but you also felt like you were part of a community. And I really noticed that when we get together now, people who haven't seen each other for 30 or 40 years, it's almost like they're right back, they're friends, and it's like they never left.
Now, when we also in college, it was very funny. I think I was one of the few people that actually wanted to study. All my suite mates did things during the day, and they crammed at the last minute and actually went to class and actually studied. It was the weirdest thing. I actually, and I'm like, did I miss something? Because everyone was having so much fun. But I actually learned a lot, which I was because the class was so small. And then if you take, let's say, what I did is I took calculus in Albany. It's huge classes. I was failing the class. I dropped out of it. Went into here, Brian. I was getting A's because the class was so personal. It was so much easier to know the teacher and get the extra help. And
Right.
it was a totally different world in these big classes. And this means colleges, you get lost.
Yeah.
Totally
Right.
lost.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the things we always also do on the show is we have some weird facts. So, did you know the Incas were the first civilization to eliminate hunger?
No.
See that?
Interesting.
So good. And 2/3 of life in this world is microorganisms. See, you got some education here.
Wow.
Even that's Bryant College thing. We'll also do something different too. We also talk about, since the election's coming up for president, we talk about qualities of what we want in the next president. And what I thought was very interesting, I thought about is we want a president that knows how to play the game of poker. When I mean the game of poker, I mean they have to know when to draw the cards and when to pull in. You know, when to fold. Thank you.
Yeah, to fold, yeah.
And I think that's an important thing. They can't go too far where they lose the whole thing and they can't. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think part of the reason why I think people go into public service is because they can negotiate, they can see things from other people's perspective. I think people who are really hardcore and it's like their way or the highway, they'll probably find it difficult to go, to become a president or something like that, because you do have to kind of, compromise So I think one of the nice things about being here at Bryant, because there's so many different kinds of people, you realize that your point of view isn't the only point of view, and you say, you know what, I can respect that. I may not agree with it, but I can respect it, and you can find some common ground.
Would you?
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I think people that go into that public service are passionate about having an impact and helping others and improving the life that we're in, and they have specific ideas about it, but there is a moment of different ideas, and like any environment, when you take different ideas and you merge them together, giving up a little bit, but you get better, that when you recognize that and you focus on merging the different ideas into one better idea, then everybody benefits.
Yeah, but as I was saying, on a different angle too, if I must say, the poker player also knows, as I said before, has to up the ante. You know, you can't always concede what you believe or whatever, and you have to know how to play the game. So I think that's an important part of being, quote, a leader, that you have to know when you can keep, putting rolling the dice, you might say. I also want to know, do you have any experiences in life that were difficult? Because audience, we're having difficult times right now, and maybe O'Brien College gave you some inspiration, or maybe you know somebody who was able to get help because of the experience they had here, or any alumni. Would you like to share anything with the audience?
I've got to think about it. I don't know, Vin, if anything comes to you.
Well, I mean, while I was here at Bryant, one of my roommates did experience a couple of losses. Within a year, he lost his dad and his brother. And so, that kind of grounds you a bit. It makes you really realize, college is fun, right? Lots of stuff, but when a family member dies, or a member of your suite mate's family, it kind of grounds you, and it makes you realize, there's other things in life that are more important. And so I always remember, Bruce, whenever I'm in a difficult spot, I always remember the people who are not with us, right? Our classmates, and I just remember and appreciate them, and I thank them, because I know things could be far worse, because they're not here, and they would trade places with me if they could. So I just kind of try to put things in perspective, and that was early on in my freshman year. So it really made me appreciate not only my suite mate, but his family and what he was going through.
We're adding a new segment today to the show, just for you. Right now, on the show, we're going to talk about some of the issues that are coming up and how you would think we could solve it. And what I have right now in front of me is an issue that's affecting a lot of Americans now, the problem with fentanyl. It's killing a lot of our citizens. What can be done to stop this crisis going on in this country?
Well, I'll throw my 2 cents in, Melissa, real quick. I went and got back my MBA about 5 years ago, and at that time, it was the point where many of the pharmaceutical companies that had been distributing OxyContin and oxycodone and fentanyl, just liberally, and they weren't being held accountable. And just in the last couple of years, you've seen them become accountable. The problem, though, is that there was all these years where it was just readily available. As a matter of fact, one of the pharmaceutical companies, the complaint against them was that every time a patient would have a problem with the drug, they'd say the solution is to prescribe a higher dosage. So it is a problem. Where I live in Oregon, a lot of the students, high school students, they're taking that, they're taking other things, and it's a real issue. And I think we really need to get back to basics where, not only the teachers, but the families, the parents, we've got to, get really on top of this early. We think kids maybe are experimenting it at 17 or 18. They could be exposed to it at 12 or 13. So we really need to kind of get back to, the more of the educating our children fairly young. They see these things online. They may have not tried it yet, but then that's just a step away from trying it. So we have to be more proactive than I think we have been.
Right, I was going to say that that is, I think, where the real horrible story is that we're losing young people to accidental fentanyl exposure. And so education and awareness can really handle that from one perspective. And on the other side, we really have to find where is this illegal fentanyl drugs coming into the country, and how do we minimize that as much as possible.
I think my point is, I think that those people that are selling this are basically selling a bullet.
Mhm.
to kill
Yes.
somebody. And the penalty for selling it has to be much more strict. It can't be a tap on the wrist. It's got to be really serious.
Well, it's murder.
Yeah, it's not the guy
They know
smoking
what they're
marijuana.
doing.
And it's a bizarre thing to me because it's just like, the drug dealer, whatever you're selling in life, you want your person to survive, so they buy more of the medicines or whatever you want to sell. In fact, it's killing them, killing people. And so I'm just like, why sell something that you're killing, quote, your customers?
You're killing your customer,
Yeah.
right?
And-
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but I think what they do is, if I know correctly, it's so cheap to make, and so cheap, so they give you a little bit, and they get addicted, that they make a bigger profit on this.
Right.
So what we need to do, I hate to say it in a business thing, is you got to make the cost go up a bit more, so it doesn't become that type of problem, That's another thing.
Yeah.
In today's times also, we always try to give some good advice, and I'm going to steal one from you, by the way.
Okay.
I brought it up, but before this is written up before you were here.
Oh, okay.
So, but I think getting involved, if you can, in some type of venture capital type program, like the young lady was speaking to me a minute ago, about whether it is getting a group of people together and investing in something as a business, and taking the brains of everybody that have different points of view and try to invest in a type of business might be another way to make some money in these times if the economy's a little rough, and also exciting because you're investing in something that you actually enjoy, which is always a great thing to do. So we have 2 drinks here. These are from, where are they from?
They're Negronis made by Dieter Kam, who's the class of 1988 alumnus, who's making drinks today.
We're gonna go over there and test it out on myself a little later on. This is a mixed drink, so let me see what you think.
And this is Alumni Weekend.
Right.
Alumni
At
Weekend.
Bryant. It's Bryant's
So
Alumni
that's, I
Weekend.
told you that. I already said that at the beginning.
Okay.
Well,
I'm just reminding
if
everybody.
anybody wants to know about your coaching and your wine tasting, how can they find out more about you?
You can look me up on LinkedIn and reach me that way. That's probably the same thing for you.
Would you like
Yeah.
to give your name or information on that?
Yeah, where's my, okay.
You can spell it out for
There
you.
it is, Marissa Crean, Crean. So, yeah, absolutely.
And
Oh yeah, my website is vindevin.com. My name's Vin, so it's VINDEVIN.com, and that's where you can find information about wine and wine tasting and food.
you're available to come to different places.
Oh yeah, I've done wine tasting and wine events on Long Island, in Massapequa, and Ronkonkoma, all the way to Seattle.
You have a good taste bud then, and coaching all over, right there?
All over.
Okay.
Anything. Yeah.
We always like to end on a happy note, and one of the things as you get more successful in life, whatever you do, there's going to be haters, and there's going to be people that have honest criticism. Most important thing that I would recommend to do is to have a great filter, to know what people are saying and to filter out what doesn't make any sense, and stick with those points that can help you. For example, I learned recently that I was speaking fast. I got that from different people, so I worked a little harder in doing it. Some of the people were a little bit more direct, and some were a little more subtle, but the same message came through. So take the advice of different people, but filter out the ones that are hurtful to you and just get the main point it is, and be successful. God willing, that will work out for you. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Bud Rebel Show.